Let's just.
I've got it going, I think. Yeah. Okay. So welcome everybody. I'm glad you could be here today. I'm Barbara. I'm the Vice President of the Labyrinth Resource Group of Santa Fe. And Dante is going to be here today presenting for the Poetry and Labyrinths mini workshop. And we're really happy to have her. Definitely. This should be real interesting and interactive too, which is really a nice feature of that. I put in the chat our address, LRG's address, so that you can find the walks that we do. We, we're having them in person, of course, before the pandemic, and now we've changed to the online walks. And hopefully in the next, probably in May, we may have another public walk, depending on how things are going, and hopefully even more as we go along throughout the year. So you can find the schedules there if you follow that link that I posted in the chat. I'm also going to post a donation link in the chat. So if you would like to donate to LRG, you are welcome to follow that link, and it'll take you to how you can donate. We appreciate any donations that we get. Of course, these walks are free. All of our walks are free. You never have to pay for them. So this is all voluntary if you do want to donate or not. If you'd like to be on our email list, you can put your email into the chat, and I'll collect those as we go along and add you to our email list. Usually there's one or two emails, maybe a month, something on that order. So you're not inundated with a whole bunch of emails, but it's just to update you on our walks that we're having and anything else that might be going on as like a pop-up walk, that kind of thing. I don't know if everybody has a printable labyrinth, but if you don't, you can go to, I'll put a couple of links in the chat for you for that. And they're from the Labyrinth Society's website. So one of them is a sharp design labyrinth, and the other one is a classical labyrinth. So you can follow those links if you want to access printable labyrinths. There's a lot of other ones online that you can access, but these were two easy links to share with you to get you there. So I want to introduce Dante a little bit more formally. She's a Santa Fe artist and author who teaches contemplative collage. And that's a process using art and writing as a technique for sacred inquiry. She walked her first labyrinth 30 years ago at a church in the Bible Belt of Alabama and was immediately smitten. And I can relate to that. I didn't walk in the Bible Belt about Alabama as my first time, but I was definitely smitten. Since then, she's walked hundreds of labyrinths around the country, and even one while walking the Camino de Santiago in Spain. She is a Veritas trained labyrinth facilitator. In the spring of 2020, looking for a project to keep herself active both spiritually and physically during the lockdown, she walked 40 different labyrinths in 40 days. And that's a pilgrimage that she details in her book, Steps and Prayers, a pandemic pilgrimage, and that'll be out later this year. So a very warm welcome to Dante.
Thank you. Thank you. So what I would like for us to do to start off with is please put your name in the chat boxes as well as where you're from, so we can kind of get an idea of where everybody's from. And I'm going to be using the chat box to create an interactive experience for you. So it's not just you listening to me and just nodding off. You'll be engaging with the process. So today it's going to be a finger walk as well as a mini mini poetry workshop. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing two finger walks. One finger walk will be to get our word, which I'll explain a little bit later. And then the second finger walk will be to create a poem from it. The first one will be about 6 minutes. The second one will be about 10 minutes, but we're going to be doing a drop down as well as an interactive experience to find how to tap into our creativity via the labyrinth. So I'm looking where everybody's from. Albuquerque, Pecos. I love Pecos. Williamsburg. Oh, yeah, because you're in Virginia now. Joanna, are you going to put yours in?
Oh, it's on my picture.
Yeah.
Johnson City, Tennessee.
So welcome, everybody, and thank you for being here today. So today we're going to do a poetry, and I like to use containers to create poems. And some people find containers like formula poems to be more constricting, but I think of them more as like the pan that you put the cake batter in to give it room to rise and grow and to become something. So I like using containers and formulas to create poetry. And the ones we're going to actually do a hybrid poem, and we're going to combine acrostics, which you probably did like in 3rd grade, where you write a word down the side of your paper and then you write lines using the first letter of that word. And then we're going to use those words to create a simile poem. So essentially we're going to be I dubbed it acrostally, TM. So, or you can call it a similaic, but we're going to create a poem based on our experiences in the labyrinth today. So what I wanted to do is first to just kind of drop down into the experience and to get here. So let me get this picture. Okay. And what I want us to do is just kind of close your eyes for a moment. And if you have your labyrinth, who has paper labyrinths and who has handheld labyrinths? Can you show them to me?
Handheld.
Okay, great. So I'm going to be showing you examples of, you can do this process either one, and I encourage you to explore it both ways, because you're going to be accessing different parts of your creativity and intuition, depending on whether you're writing or whether you're bumping into the words, which will make more sense as we go along. But just put that piece of paper or your handheld labyrinth in your lap, and kind of just look at it for a moment and connect with it. And just kind of like, I like when I walk into a labyrinth, I always greet the labyrinth first. And sometimes I'll say a prayer. Sometimes I'll just put my hands in front of my heart and just close my eyes and feel the sun on me or the wind on me, experience the day. So I just want you to be one with your labyrinth right now and just experience the moment. And this morning, as I was coming up with my notes, finishing up my notes for today, this little thing came to me about the similarities between poetry and labyrinths. So if you just close your eyes and take a deep breath, and we're going to just do this little meditation to bring us here. Poetry and labyrinths are the perfect marriage. When you enter a poem, you enter liminal, in between space. A poem doesn't take you from point A to point B in the shortest distance. It weaves you back and forth into the experiencing, changing you with each line until you find yourself at the center, smack dab in the center of what the poet was trying to convey. And if it was a good poem, it'll have subtly changed you, and you walk back out into the world a slightly different person. When you enter a labyrinth, you enter the same liminal in-between space. You're neither in your regular life, neither are you out of it. It doesn't take you from point A to point B in the shortest distance. Instead, it weaves you back and forth into the experience, slowing you down, changing you with every step until you find yourself in the center, slightly altered. And like a poem, you will walk back out a slightly different person, maybe grounded, maybe energized, but certainly more alive and aware of your own beingness. In today's process, we're going to bring those two together. You'll be using the mystery of the labyrinth to invite in your very own poem. These won't be polished poems, nor should they be, for we're only here to invite in and listen to the poetry and messages within us. Okay, just take another deep breath and come back. And for fun, I want everybody to think of the coolest, most extraordinary labyrinth you've done. And everybody's done labyrinths here, have they not? Yes. So write down, I want you to write in the chat box where that labyrinth was and one word that would describe it. Woodpecker?
Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
There was a woodpecker that followed me around. Yeah.
Backyard question. Tree, South Africa. Oh, magnificent. Oh, wow. Space. Question. I like question. Playful. Oh, I have to put mine in here. Impermanent. These are great. And isn't it great because every time we see a single word, it might just be a word, but it brings us to mind, like Joanna said woodpecker. And I thought of the labyrinth I walked in Nashville, Tennessee, and there was a crow that stayed above me on the telephone line, just watching me the whole time I was walking the labyrinth. And she just stayed there. She just stayed there. It was a bigger labyrinth, so it took a while. And it wasn't until I got to the very middle and I saw a dead snake in the center of the labyrinth that I realized she was waiting for me to get out of her labyrinth so she could have lunch. So it's great. So Marge, tell us about your magnificent labyrinth.
Well, Bob and I have been to Chartres many times, and we tried to think of one word, and we came up with about a dozen.
Yeah.
Of course, that's the most amazing labyrinth to walk. And the first time we walked it was with Lauren Artris.
Oh, wow.
The first time I think that she ever took a group to Chartres was 1994, maybe. And walked it at night with the candles around it and the light coming in through the cathedral windows. Of course, it's just incredible.
Extraordinary. Joanna, tell us about your woodpecker.
Oh, this was at a retreat center in Knoxville, and the labyrinth was surrounded by woods, trees, and these gigantic pileated woodpeckers that you find in Tennessee just hopped from tree to tree as I circled around, and did some, pecking on wood too.
Oh, yeah.
It was just amazing.
I would like to see a book of labyrinths and animals because they intersect so much that we don't even think about it, but it's so very cool. Okay, Terry, tell us about your tree.
Well, the first time I ever walked a labyrinth, it was this labyrinth in South Africa. It was at a retreat center, and it was built around the environment. So the tree was right in the middle of it. And they also had this person, he made or developed, it wasn't cement, but it was a different kind of material, artistic like. And he had pre-created or drew out the labyrinth, but he created these pieces so that they were placed in, kind of like the one down at the cathedral here. So they were placed in around it, and it had the trees and the stream right by it, and then they had like an amphitheater where people could sit there and meditate or whatever, and then do the labyrinth or come back and forth. So that the tree just was amazing, and I learned I don't know the Bodhisattva. It's called Gate Gate, Piragate, Pirasamgate, Bodhiswaha. And we learned that, and that's going on beyond. And I don't know much about that because that's I just learned it and did it at that time.
That is gorgeous. Hi, Sharon. Sharon, would you write in the chat box where you're from, the coolest labyrinth you ever, where the coolest labyrinth you ever walked was, and one word about it? And we'll pop back to you. Susie, tell me about your backyard question.
This is quite a few years ago now. I was between jobs all of a sudden. And at some point, either right after getting fired or before, right after or before I got fired, I had bought a lot of landscape rock because I wanted to build myself a walking labyrinth in the backyard. And anyway, I had enough money to get all that landscape rock and started and, you know, was fresh out of a job and didn't really know where I was going next. And the pattern I used was a girlfriend's pattern who's a potter, and she makes this little finger labyrinths that you, and I have one in the house. I didn't get a chance to pull it out. If we take a break, maybe I'll show it to you guys. It's similar to what some of you have. But the first shape in the labyrinth that I built after losing that job was a question mark.
Nice.
And it was amazing because it was like so symbolic of where am I going now? What am I going to do now? And so for the first time in my life after losing a job or changing jobs, I decided that I was going to let the question mark be my guide. And
oh, I love that.
So every day I worked on my labyrinth, and I used the pattern that my girlfriend did, and I worked on it every day for about the 6 months that I was out of work. And I got to the end of the labyrinth building it, and I had a few more stones to go, and I could not figure out where to put them to complete the labyrinth pattern correctly. And so I had to get my friend over to come over and take a look at it because I was totally stuck. I couldn't figure out where these last rocks needed to go. And she came in, walked up into the labyrinth, came in, took a look at the middle and said, well, how about here, here, and here? And she finished it for me. And right after that, I got my new job.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Yay.
I thought that was a pretty nice labyrinth.
That's awesome. Thank you. Sharon, tell us about space.
Space is part of what draws me to poetry because there is the literal space that gets represented on the piece of paper on which the words are put. So it's not just a matter of the words themselves, but the representation that the space on the page carries with it as well. And that's really important to me. I always remember that poetry is first and foremost an auditory medium. And so I try to be mindful of that when I'm reading a poem out loud, to represent that space with the auditory delivery.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Isn't it in the Jewish tradition that letters hold one energy and the space around them holds another separate energy? There's something in the mystical. That's great.
That's good. Yeah, I've never heard that, but that's wonderful. Mm-hmm.
And Barbara, tell us briefly about playful.
So this wasn't exactly the coolest labyrinth I've ever walked or the first labyrinth or anything, but it was probably one of the coolest experiences I had because I was walking in Rail Yard not too long after I moved to Santa Fe at Rail Yard Park. And I was walking around, didn't realize there was a labyrinth there. And so that labyrinth is right next to the children's playground. And that day there happened to be all kinds of kids at the children's playground. And then they were climbing, there's like a little amphitheater that's right by the labyrinth, and there's rocks to climb on, and you can, the kids were running around the outside or climbing over the rocks and coming onto the labyrinth, and just playing around in the amphitheater. So it just was so striking how happy and playful it was, and it was a great experience. So
that's a great labyrinth. Everybody that's in Santa Fe needs to walk that one. It's wonderful.
Yeah. It's very small, but it's
small,
really,
but it's perfect.
Cool
it's
one.
like,
yeah.
And then you can have people take pictures of you on the rocks walking it. That's cool. It's like an aerial view of you walking a labyrinth. Marianne, tell us briefly about impermanence. Low impermanence can't be spoken of briefly, can it?
I'll do it.
Okay.
So I put up this virtual background. That's the one I'm talking about. That I built it on Myrtle Beach. It's the first successful sand labyrinth I made. And we watched it. I mean, we continued our walk, and as we came back, it was being washed away. And I think it's important for me to remember that, so I don't get attached to anything. I enjoy and I experience the embodiment here, but I don't get attached to it.
That's beautiful. I had that experience last year. Dakota did chalk labyrinths in her patio, back patio. And of course it was during monsoon season, so they'd wash away like every 3 days. But there was a joy to it. Like I would wake up and I'd hear the rain and be like, yay, my labyrinth's gonna wash away today, and I get to make another one. So it's a very sacred lesson, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, and then we have Sharon. Is that my last one? Yes. Hello, Sharon. Tell us your experience piece in your labyrinth.
Yes. I've walked this particular labyrinth in Michigan a number of different times. And my first experience has been echoed in subsequent experiences, but I just had this sense of, it was the first time I'd ever walked a labyrinth, and that was probably like 12 years ago. And as I walked into it, and of course I'm a planner, so I'm like looking ahead to make sure I'm doing it the right way, but I just found myself, like, it felt like different concerns or things that were on my mind were dropping away as I walked in towards the center. And at the center, it was just such a breathing space that I just felt just this overwhelming sense of peace. And as I walked back out, it was with a lighter heart, and definitely with some renewed energy. Not weighed down by what called me in.
Yes.
So
isn't that gorgeous? There's so much power in labyrinths, and such a silent, mystical power. It's just so mysterious. It's lovely. So thank you, Sharon. So in my story, my word was tombstone. And I have 2 labyrinths that were the coolest labyrinths I ever walked. And one was, they're both in Tampa, Florida. And one was at a Benedictine convent where old nuns would go to die. And they had this great, huge labyrinth that was under these live oaks with Spanish moss just dangling down. And the labyrinth itself was made out of that crushed clamshells. You've probably seen a Marianne in Florida, where they make that white kind of gravelly, but it's crushed clamshells. And the labyrinth itself was made out of pavers, like just regular ceramic pavers, but they were so old, and because the sand is so malleable, that the ground that they were grounded in, they were all kind of like haphazardly, they'd fallen over themselves. And so it felt like I was walking through this graveyard. It was just so eerie. And especially realizing now that the nuns went there to die, it was like you're just among all these ghosts, and you're just holding, their space for them. So that was cool. So the point of this little exercise was for us to find our one, to see the power in one word.
Hey,
because
Dante,
yes,
excuse me a moment. We have another person participating, April Wilson.
hello, April.
And I don't know this. I she's a very good friend of mine from Herman, Missouri, and I think this is her first Zoom, so I'm not sure,
Okay.
about how it might be working for the chat or anything. But I just
Well, welcome, April. And if you want to put if you can figure out the chat, write your name and a labyrinth that you've walked and one word about it that was so special about that labyrinth. And we'll watch for your chat. But while we're waiting for April, so what we're going to do with our first labyrinth is we're going to take about 6 minutes and we're going to walk. We're going to take our labyrinth. I'm going to hold mine backwards. Mine has words in it because you realize we're going to end up with words in it. But I just want you to walk your labyrinth. And this is about a 6-minute labyrinth. And I want you to think before we go into it. Hello, April.
Hi.
And I want you to, as you walk this labyrinth, I want you to just think about some situation in your life that you would like either to get some guidance about or some clarity about, or would just like some input from a higher source. Just a little like a help me, just comfort, just anything, but we're going to go for one word. So I'm going to put on some music. And again, it's going to be 6 minutes. And let me find my music that I have. And I just want you to go ahead and close your eyes right now and put your labyrinth in your lap like you do, or on your table. And just kind of get present with your labyrinth again. And when the music starts, I want you to walk this labyrinth slowly and gently with the intention of finding your one word. And here we go. Okay. And as you come back, just kind of breathe into that word and that experience, then gently come back. And I would like everybody to write your word in the chat box, your one word. Oh. Nice. It's amazing the wide range of words. Dance. So let me read those out loud so you can hear your words side back to you. We have lost, we have restore, dawn, touchstone, go, grief, play, hope, connection, and dance. That's a poem right there, isn't it? So what I want you to do now is to take your word, and does everybody have a journal? And write your word on the side of your journal, on the page of your journal like this, up and down vertically. So one word, and you might leave a line between each letter, but just write your word. And I'm going to see if I can share a screen. Does everybody see that? I don't know how to close that off. Get that again. Did that pop up, guys? Okay, very good. And I just want you to look at the first part right now, share. But you see part one, the acrostic, finding our words. Now I want you to write, using your letters, write one word that springs to your mind with each letter. So mine were relaxed, energy. Get my screen down. Energy, stretch, timeless, opening, remember, extraordinary. So I want you to take a few minutes and come up with your words. And they don't have to actually match the word itself. I mean, let things come through you. If it comes up with bubble gum for your B, just put down bubble gum. Ostrich for your O. Lamentations for your L. And then when you have your words written, just raise your hand so I can see where everybody's at. Thank you, Marge. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon. Oh, we have two Sharon, Sharon A-N, Sharon O-N. Thank you, Barbara. Only one Barbara. April, thank you.
I'm missing one word, so.
What's your letter?
E.
E. I'm not going to help you. Ecstatic, energy, exhilarant, every day, everybody, everyone, enthusiasm. Eeyore.
Emu.
Egg yolk. Yeah, make yolk yellow. You can just leave that one blank. Thank you, Marianne. Okay, you got it? Okay, great. So here comes the fun part. So now let me screen share this. Let me screen share. Oh, I don't know if I have it on here. Okay. It'll take me forever to try to find it. So I'm just gonna hold it up to you. So what I want you to do now, we're gonna start with the people that have your paper labyrinths. I want you to write your words, the words that you just came up with, randomly within your labyrinth. How many people have paper labyrinths? Raise your hand. Okay, very good. So Terry, you've got a live one. Okay. And if you don't have a paper labyrinth, you can still work it perfectly with your regular labyrinth, your handheld. And I'm going to have you, well, I'll explain it in just a second, Terry. And then when you have your words written in it, just let me know again. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, April. Oh, I like your labyrinth. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Joanna. Susie, thank you. Thank you, Barbara. You got your Sharon Egan? Very good. Thank you. Marge and Bob, you're doing well? Okay, okay, great. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I'm going to put the music on again, and you're going to have 10 minutes this time because we're going to do some writing with it. So when you're walking for the handhelds, when you're walking your labyrinth, and the beauty of the handheld labyrinth is that your words are going to become random. So I'm going to walk mine, and I'm going up and around and around and around. I'm going to hit timelessness. So when you get to your word, I want you to pause and come up with a simile for timelessness. So mine was, and I want your phrases to start with like thee, because this is a container poem. And mine came up like the invisible wind circling the globe, I am timelessness. And then you would walk again to the next one. And when I get to energy, I stopped and I paused. And you just let an image come to you, because we've talked a lot about images already, about where everybody's been. So for energy, my phrase came like bees buzzing back to their hive. I am energy. So I want you to write that like phrase into your journal right above where your word is. So you can see here are my words: relaxed energy, stretch, timelessness, opening, remember, and eternity. Like a cat yawning in the sun, I'm relaxed. Like bees buzzing back to their hive, I am energy. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay. So I'm going to give us 10 minutes for this one. And then Terry, for the handhelds, I want you, every time you come to a turn, pause and look for the next word on your list, and then come up with your simile. And then when you come to the next turn, pause and look for your word. Okay, so here we go, everybody. And just gently, if you're finished with your labyrinth, just come back. And take a deep breath again for that experience. And I would like you to look at the words you wrote, the poem you created, and circle the line that has the most, holds the most energy for you. Just one of the lines was there anything that surprised you? Was there anything that just like, what's that about? And if you would put that one line in the chat box so we can kind of share each other's experience a little bit, including the simile, like bees buzzing back to their hive, I am energy. So whatever your line is. Great. These are extraordinary, everybody. Okay, close your eyes. I'm going to read them back to you so you hear your own words again. Excitement abounds. Like a warm blanket wrapped around your shoulders, I am family. Like a poem on the tip of my tongue, I remember. Like a trapeze artist, I grapple with the wish to hold the bar or let go and fly. I believe it will be okay in the end. Like work-worn hands held open in supplication, I'm accepting. Like ancient archetypal memories, walking a labyrinth is occipital. Like beauty of place and time and letting go, trusting. Like walking into Chartres Cathedral. That's beautiful. And wasn't that a poem itself? That's just gorgeous. So how did that feel for everybody? Was it good? Did any surprises? Did anything? So who would like to read their poem out loud to us? I'm waiting. Bob, you're muted.
Like walking into Chartres Cathedral.
Just read the whole thing. You wanted to read the whole thing?
Can you read the whole poem? Yeah, I'd love to hear the whole poem.
Oh, it's no poem. It's
no, mine either.
Just fleeting thoughts. Connect like a lifelong friend. Enter walking into Chartres Cathedral. Care like walking into the home of a friend who has just lost a loved one. Open like letting in new, true ways of connecting. Nothing like nothing can separate two magnets locked together. Never deceive and always care.
That's beautiful. I think that's a poem. That's beautiful. The magnets. Oh my goodness. Oh, and the walking into the friend's home is like walking into the cathedral. This, there's so much poetry in that. Thank you. Who else would like to read?
I can read.
Terry?
Do nothing, all is well. Now is the time, can be. Excitement abounds.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Read it again, please, Terry.
Do nothing, all is well. Now is the time, can be. Excitement abounds.
That's great. That's lovely. Marianne, would you like to read yours?
I'm happy to. Walking a labyrinth. Like time with old friends, it is too sweet. Like ancient archetypal memories, it is occipital. Like a great massage, it is underrated. Like bending yoga, it is cat-like. Like art, music, poetry, it is bi-hemispheric. Like synchronicity, it is serendipitous. Like the movement of energy, it is Tai Chi. Like this life in the web, it is owned not. Like our incarnational experiences, it is not permanent. Like liminal thresholds, it is a definite crossing, but neither here nor there, ethereal.
And what was your word, Marianne?
Touchstone.
Oh,
Long.
that's great. That's great. Oh, that's beautiful. Sharon, is it risked? Risked?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
can you read yours? Because I know that you do poetry.
Sure. Okay. Like the ocean's ebb and flow, pulled by Lady Moon, I oscillate between life and death, integrity and despair. Like a trapeze artist, I grapple with the wish to hold the bar or let go and fly.
And what was your word?
Go.
Go. Oh, wow.
She got a lot.
That's great. That's great. So how was the experience for you? Did the similes, did the images come easily to you when you hit your word? What was that like for it? Who would like to share about their experience? Sharon?
I thought I was surprised that the ideas came relatively easily and just obviously were moved by the spirit.
Yeah.
Spirit led, yes.
Yeah.
Can I read mine?
Susie?
Yeah, I didn't get to read mine.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Like the dance of life is lonely, painful as only yearning can be sweet. Like a spiral, every place, never the same twice, I orbit. Like a beauty of place and time and letting go, trusting.
And what was your word, Susie?
My word was lost.
Lost. Wow, that poem really spoke to Lost, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. Would anybody else like to read theirs?
I'll read.
Okay, Sharon, read.
Okay. Let me get it here. Like the sure-footed tightrope walker balancing high above, I am daring. Like work-worn hands held open in supplication, I am accepting. Like the mother heavy with child, with eager anticipation, I am waiting. Like a wisp of memory, the fragrance of peony, a soft whispered nothing, a soft whisper, I am nothing and everything.
And what was your word?
The word was dawn.
Beautiful. That was beautiful.
Thanks.
That was beautiful.
Well, that's just one way to walk a labyrinth, everybody. And you can also do it like you can take your poem with you, like print it out or keep it in your journal, and then actually walk a live labyrinth and read the poem. So you're re-experiencing that experience and stop and pause when you read the line. And that's another way to use that. But like I said at the very beginning, labyrinths are such a liminal space that take us between things and out back into our world, refreshed and renewed and with more wisdom. And poetry does the same thing. So does anybody else want to share what their experience was like? Did you enjoy this, not enjoy this? How'd it go?
It was good.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
Well, our next Labyrinth group, resource group walk is going to be a live one. It's is it May 16th? The mud walk? So anybody that's...
Actually, World Labyrinth Day is the 1st of May.
Oh, thank you, Marianne. Yes, yes, yes. The World Labyrinth Day is the 1st of May.
There'll be a virtual, if you're available, please come. Walking for many years, 18 years, I think it is. Labyrinth Resource Group the Labyrinth Society has sponsored walking at 1 o'clock, wherever you are in the world, at 1 o'clock in your time zone as one. So we connect all around the world. Yeah, so it's a virtual walk LRG is doing at 1 o'clock that day. But also, Barbara, do you want to speak about the in-person walk later that day?
Yeah, so there will be an in-person walk at Rail Yard Park. That is not actually open to the public yet. So, I mean, the park is, but our walk is not. It's by invitation only at this point, so that we can keep the group small until things are a little bit more open. But that one will be at 3 o'clock. So
LRG has tried to be so careful. We certainly don't want to become a super spreader, right? So we've been trying to safeguard your health, our health, and still serve you with virtual walks. So pay attention to our website and you'll be able to get there.
And Marianne, you're hosting the May 1st walk, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So you'll get to see Marianne. And everybody, I'm going to put my email in the chat box. If you would like to send me your poem that you wrote today, I will compile them all and send them back out to you, all the poems together, so we can see what we did. It's completely voluntary if you'd like to. So that is all I have. I want to thank everybody for being here today. It was a joy to walk with you, even if we're little squares in a box. So take care.
Thank you, Dante.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
thank you, Dante.
That was really lovely, Dante. Thank you so
Very
much.
nice.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dante.
Let's keep walking. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. You take care. It was great to see you.
Bye, Susie. Thanks for coming.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Susie.